The marketization of virtue. What is virtuous is fairly stable cross-culturally. The virtuous hero usually 1. Ventures voluntarily into the unknown and relays the wisdom of his adventures. 2. Helps those less fortunate. 3. Engenders necessary societal change. 4. Demonstrates his capability to lead others by his mastery of himself. Think of any currently relevant mythological hero, and you'll get an idea of the implicit notion of virtue present in the minds of most people. Anyway, I think what we're witnessing in modern society is the erosion of this traditional mental model of virtue in favor of one proposed by an intransigent minority. This has led to what I'm calling the marketization of virtue, as financially motivated entities adopt the precepts of virtue proposed by said intransigent minority in order to benefit financially, or increasingly avoid financial loss. How is it that an intransigent minority holds this much sway? I think it has to do with the positive feedback that the accommodation of intransigent minorities can generate. For example, various institutions have an economic incentive to meet the demands of some intransigent minority if these demands pose little cost to the institution, and if, by meeting the demands, the institution gains the loyal patronage of the intransigent minority. Upon the institution meeting these demands, the intransigent minority gains in influence and popularity. This, in turn, motivates the institution and others to bend even more to the minority's demands, and this process repeats ad infinitum with diminishing returns. Hopefully, the following example will concretize this idea. Think of foods marketed specifically toward vegans who are uncompromising in their eating habits. I have nothing against vegans, by the way. Go vegans! Vegan food companies know that the majority of people aren't precluded from eating vegan foods, but they market toward vegans so as to hopefully acquire a loyal consumer base. Veganism, as a result, gets popularized by these marketing efforts. Regular food eaters then become interested in a vegan diet as shelves become stocked with veganized foods. Veganist group leaders also gain an influence as the number of vegan or vegan curious people increases. This motivates vegan food companies to market toward vegans even more. Other companies may also imitate these marketing efforts to capitalize on veganism's increasing popularity, and this process compounds with diminishing returns. Let's examine a more pernicious hypothetical example of this process. Say an intransigent minority starts espousing a contrarian system of virtue, one that unjustifiably flies in the face of propriety and refuses to patronize or outright sabotages any business that does not conform to its virtue system. As long as the economic cost of conformity is low, businesses have a clear economic incentive to conform, one that could easily outweigh any moral disincentive, especially if responsibility for societal harm or loss, as a result of conformity, cannot be localized to any one person or small group of people within each business. The result of this is that businesses conform to the minority's demands, which emboldens and popularizes a shitty virtue system and its proponents. Similar companies or institutions may reflexively imitate such conformity out of, perhaps undue, respect for the force that motivated this behavior in the previous businesses. And the respect this force commands increases with the number of companies or institutions that submit to it. All this leads to the marketization of virtue, as what is virtuous gets determined by the most intransigent customer.